Ukraine is fielding a new, longer range and more powerful cruise missile, codenamed Flamingo. And if that really does have the range and the explosive firepower that reports would indicate, that could potentially be a game changer. As could this week's discussion, reported discussion about the United States potentially sharing access to the Tomahawk cruise missile from the United States arsenal. So the Flamingo, the Tomahawk, those carry much more powerful warheads than we've seen from the drones. Those have the potential to move the needle. Well, I would generally agree that the petroleum refineries, the 30, 35 refineries around the country that take in the crude oil and manufacture the fuels are an area of real vulnerability for the Russians. But again, it's that limited explosive firepower that we've seen over the last couple of years that make it possible for the Russians to restore operations relatively quickly. That's why I was saying that a stage change in the amount of explosive firepower that's delivered could have a different kind of result than we've seen thus far, which is fast repair times. Yeah, another potential area of vulnerability in the fuel supply chain is the delivery mechanism that takes the fuel to domestic markets, including civilian markets in places like Moscow and St. Petersburg. And we've seen some of those pipelines and pumping stations targeted. But there's also the issue of the delivery of those critically important fuels to the Russian armed forces that are fighting the war against Ukraine. And it's possible that by striking certain depots, terminals, railways, and other pipelines, that fuel supply chain to the Russian military could be impacted, could even be disrupted, and that would affect Moscow's ability to prosecute the war. In the short term, I'm expecting more of the same. I'm expecting Kyiv to continue its military campaign to disrupt and deny Russia the ability to produce those fuels that in turn fuel the armed forces and also provide the sales revenues for the war chest, if you will. And at the same time, I'm expecting Russia to be able to repair those units relatively quickly. Only when we see a change in the military equation, or obviously some diplomatic breakthrough that could end the war, I'm expecting the status quo to continue over the next several weeks.